makes watercolor distinct from acrylic or oil paint? It uses a different binder. Binders are the substances that hold the pigments together. While oil paints use linseed oil to bind these pigments, watercolor uses a water-soluble binder called gum arabic. This substance sets watercolor apart. It makes watercolor water-soluble and translucent. Watercolor comes in different forms. They're usually designed to address specific needs an artist may have. But how do you use them? There's no singular way to use watercolor. Experienced artists use this medium in any way possible. But generally, you dissolve it with water before applying it to the paper. Most professional watercolorists use watercolor tubes. You can squeeze moist paint on your palette and mix washes easily. You don't have to wash the paint off the palette after using it. If the surface is contaminated with another color, all you have to do is wipe it clean. Some people prefer other types of watercolor because of their portability, but most palettes are designed for travel too. Pens are probably your first encounter with watercolor. This is what we've used in arts and crafts classes as kids. They're basically the same as tubes, only in hardened form. It's easy to clean and it's portable too. They usually come with their own brushes, but I don't really suggest using them. Watercolor inks are brighter than regular watercolors. It's suitable for painting solid washes and can also be used to enhance the brightness of some areas of your paintings. These are water-soluble colored pencils. They usually come in sets too. You can either use them dry, like a regular pencil, or with water. Some people prefer them for their portability. I personally only use them to enhance details of my paintings. I was amazed when I was given this watercolor sheet pad. The colors that you see here looks nothing like it when applied on paper. Colors are very bright like watercolor ink. I won't use these to cover a whole painting, but only to enhance regular watercolors. Watercolor brush pens are used for calligraphy. Although it's water-soluble too, I wouldn't really use it for paintings. There are more types of watercolor in the market. It's exciting to play around these tools, but if you're a beginner, I suggest you stick with tubes or pans until you're confident enough to explore. Personally, I prefer tubes. They're the most versatile of all. In my previous video, I mentioned why I put more value on paper over paints. Of course, it's ideal if you can get high quality supplies when starting with watercolor, but not everyone can splurge, especially when you're just beginning. The standard labels for paint quality are student and artist grade. It's best to start with student grade watercolors. These are usually manufactured by companies which also make artist or professional grade watercolors. They're easier to use and are more translucent than academy paints. When I started painting, I used Reeves. I was able to learn a lot of techniques using my basic set. I also like Van Gogh by Royal Talents, and I'm still using Cotman by Winsor & Newton for most of my works. Once you've learned different watercolor techniques, you'll start to get bored of the limited colors certain sets offer. I remember looking at more experienced watercolorists' work and thinking how they got very unique shades of colors. Even after attempting mixing, I just couldn't get the same shade. Artist paints have so many colors, although this can also be true with some student grade watercolors. What sets them apart is the artist paint being archival. It won't fade over time like other paints. When I switched to artist grade, I was able to push my skills even farther because you'll never run into problems when using high quality paints. Once you're comfortable with a medium, I suggest you buy artist grade paints individually. This way, you don't have to pay for the colors that you won't use. There are so many brands offering professional watercolors, but since I'm based in Japan, I tend to lean towards domestic products. I like Holbein for tubes. Their colors are very bright and they're just so beautiful. I also like Winsor and Newton. They're widely available and they come up with beautiful colors too. Sakura watercolor pans are also amazing. So I hope that was helpful for you. Leave a comment here if you have any questions about watercolor. And make sure to check out my last video about watercolor paper. And if you're new here, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. Thank you so much for watching and see you again soon.